breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
Hey, warmer from the low. Welcome to lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. We've got an excellent podcast for you as we're going to be joined in segment number 2 by a good buddy of ours. We're chatting it up with Colby Marchio, who's doing such great work over at Better Day, along with Covers. We're going to chat with him about the low amount of scoring that we've been seeing here in the second half of the season, how he's been perhaps adjusting some of his home run props and the team totals. And he's been looking at the very, very murky American League as he has been bullish on the White Sox all season long. There's another team out there in the AL Central that he's buying stock on as well, so we'll chat about that and so much more in the final segment. I'm going to get you guys picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Friday as we touch them all. If you have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you do have one or two ways to fire those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at gunit_81. Keep in mind, their ZM naming does not matter, so as per usual, please do send these into the timeline. And the other way is find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it's very much appreciated. From there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. Did not get in any Twitter/X questions today, but we had a fun day of baseball on Thursday. Let's take a look back at it, try to find some trends, and try to get to know these teams a little bit better.
Games from yesterday is Greg buzzing about. Here is the rowdy recap.
If you're a fan of fried fish, then Thursday was a day for you. For the Pirates, they take down the Miami Marlins by a count of 13-1. Braxton Ashcraft, anything but a load of Ashcraft, gives up a solo home run to Owen Casey in the 9th inning, 13th home run season. That's all that he gave up in his complete game, 10 punch-outs. And for Tyler Phillips, 4 runs allowed in 5 1/3 innings was taken deep by Jared Trollo, second home run on the campaign, and then Jacob Gonzalez a little bit later on off the position player, Javier Sanja, would give up a pair of home runs, gets a 6th home run on the campaign, and then we had home runs number 2 and 3 of the campaign for Rafael Flores Jr., the backup catcher. One of them comes off of Sanja, who gives up 5 runs in 1 1/3 innings. And then the other one that comes off of John King, he was the king of giving up 3 runs in 2/3 of an inning. You also had Kate Gibson come in for 1 2/3 innings. He allowed a run along the way. The Red Sox finally snapped their losing streak of 5 games, 7-0. They were able to take down the Toronto Blue Jays. Max Scherzer pretty solid in this one. 1 run allowed in 5 innings. From there, Spencer Miles, Braden Fisher, they both give you a scoreless inning. And then you had 4 runs given up in an inning by one Mr. Chase Lee as he was taken deep by Caleb Durbin. 12th home run on the campaign, Luzardo Estrada. He then gives up 2 runs in an inning. Peyton Doley made the Blue Jays pay the toll. Only 4 punch-outs, but 8 shutout innings from there. Greg Weiser, scoreless 9th inning. Speaking of scoreless, that's what the New York Yankees were on Thursday. 1-0, the Seattle Mariners get the job done. We'll have on the podcast tomorrow our good friend Curtis Rogers to talk about this scene, but Weston Wilson gets a solo home run off of Max Fried, 4th home run on the campaign, lone run on the game. Fried was solid, gives up that solo home run in 5 innings of work, just the 2nd home run he gave up all season. From there, Ryan Yarbrough, 4 outside the bullpen scoreless, Yuri De Los Santos, 5 out scoreless. Fernando Cruz was able to give you a scoreless inning, and then Logan Gilbert on the flip side was even better. 6 shutout innings, Edward Bizardo, Jose Ferrer, Andres Munoz. They all turned scoreless innings. For the Chicago White Sox, not what they were looking for here. They fall by a count of 9-8 to the Cincinnati Reds as for Andrew Abbott, not the start he was looking for. 5 runs allowed in 4 1/3 innings, but that said, they were able to get the win because Davis Martin, he had to leave after 2 innings. 4 runs, 3 of which were earned, and he was taken deep twice in this game. And Eugenio Suarez, his 18th home run of the campaign, and cousin Sal Stewart, his 16th. Tyler Stevenson, a little bit later on, he gets his 11th home run season. For Eric Fetty Wap, he gives up that home run to Stevenson. 4 runs allowed in 3 innings. You did have Trevor Richards in long relief, 2 2/3 innings scoreless. Tanner McDougal in his MLB debut of Henderson, Nevada, where I am based. He gives up a run, and he threw 25 pitches, 8 for strikes. That was not great to say the least. Jordan Hicks, a scoreless inning, and for the Reds, not like their bullpen was amazing. You did have Pierce Johnson and Brock and Roll combined for 3 out scoreless. DJ Antone, Lewis May, they both give you a scoreless inning, but Sam Moll, 2 runs allowed in 2/3 of an inning. Julian Garcia gives up a run in an inning, but Reds good enough to be able to get the job done here. And for the Motor City Kitties, they're a game away from getting back to 500, 3-0. They take down the Cleveland Guardians, and I am for the Detroit Tigers ever since the All-Star break. They have been absolutely incredible, as they have been 16-9 in this time span, and for the Detroit Tigers, just a really good pitching performance in general from the whole staff, as you did have Kenley Jansen be able to get you a scoreless 9th inning to be able to get the save. Prior to that, Kadir Montero, anything but Montero, 6 1/3 inning scoreless. Tyler Holton, 5 outside the bullpen scoreless. You did have home run number 5 of the campaign that really was able to lift the team to victory from the young gun in Eduardo Valencia. That one comes off of Parker Messick, who he gives up that home run, 2 runs in total in 5 2/3 innings. Craig Yelhoe, 4 outside the bullpen scoreless. Franco Ullman, he gets it out of the bullpen, gives up up a run. Tim Aaron, pair of outs, scoreless, but the Tigers, they were able to do enough damage to be able to get that one in. Being able to get this one in, the Washington Nationals 7-0. They shut out the Chicago Cubs as Kevin Gausman. He's had his struggles recently, and he gives up 6 runs in 4 2/3 innings. Taken deep by Alembic Ortiz, his 4th home run of the season. And for Ortiz, he's now had 3 home runs, I believe, in like the last week. He has been absolutely on fire. 2 in the last 3 games, I know that. Aaron Civale gives up 1 run in 3 1/3 innings, but Kane Cavalli was untouchable. I believe they carried a no-hitter into the 7th inning. 10 punch-outs, 8 scoreless innings, only gives up 1 hit. Clayton Beater from there, scoreless inning to be able to get the save. And in the Field of Dreams game, first one that we saw since 2022, it was all Phillies. 7-1, they take down the Minnesota Twins. Taj Bradley was playing games with us as he gives up a pair of home runs to Kyle Schwarber, 36th and 37th of the campaign. 5 runs in total allowed in 4 innings. Travis Adams from there, he gives up home run to Brandon Marsh, 17th home run season. He would allow 2 runs in 2 2/3 innings. Taylor Rogers, 4 outside the bullpen, scoreless. Tommy Nance, a scoreless inning. And Aaron Nola, one of his best starts of the season, he gives up a home run over the course of 5 innings. Luke Keeschel, he was able to get his 7th home run season. That's all the offense that the Twins would get as they strand 9 on base. Brooks Raley, Jonathan Bolin, Orion Kirkering, and Yohan Aran, they're all able to end a scoreless inning. The LA Angels, who entered in the day tied for last in the American League record-wise, they take down the Texas Rangers, and they ran off a few wins in the series. 7-0, they shut them out. Jacob deGrom, done after 2 innings. He had no zip on his fastball. I have to wonder if an injured list stint is upcoming for him. From there, Peyton Gray gives you a scoreless inning. Jordan Montgomery, well, he's just been awful. 4 runs allowed over the course of 2 innings. The Peoples, Ben Peoples, gives you a scoreless inning. Cole Winn gives up a run in an inning, and then Tyler Alexander, scoreless inning of his own, and then Walbe Yarena. Yarena is all over the Rangers. 6 shutout innings. Jose Fermin, Taylor Sacato, and then Sammy Peralta. They're all able to give you a scoreless inning. And then you had the Milwaukee Brewers storm back against the LA Dodgers. They steal this one by a count of 5-4. As for the Brewers, they were down throughout much of this game, and then they get a 3 spot in the 9th inning. Edwin Diaz just continues to not be himself. Gives up 3 runs in the 9th with the team up 4-2 going into that inning, as Shane Drone gave up 3 runs in 5 1/3 innings for the Brewers. Antonio Senzatella from there gives up a solo home run to Max Muncy, 23rd home run in the campaign. DL turned it up. Hall, 2 shutout innings, and then for the Brewers, Trevor McGill closes out the 9th inning. Hiroki Sasaki did walk 5. He wasn't necessarily sharp. The Brewers left 10 men on base, but only gave up 2 runs in 6 innings. From there, Jack Dreher, scoreless inning. Edgar Enriquez, Tanner Scott, they both lend a scoreless inning combined, and then Diaz lights it up in the 9th inning. And if you're taking a look at trend-wise, what we're getting in Major League Baseball right now, it has become an underwhelming season. The over rate is sitting at about 49.2%, 874 overs, 903 unders, and if that serves me correct, I believe we're up to 47 pushes now this season. Favorites on the money line hitting at a hair above 56%, 994 and 777, and among those favorites, we have now seen a whopping 248 fail to cover the run line over the last 30 days. Favorites are hitting at about 56%, 206 and 163, and among those favorites, 62 have failed to cover the run line, and the under rate is right around about 54.6/7%, 167 overs, 201 unders, and quite a few pushes along the way. Meanwhile, last 7 days in Major League Baseball, overs are starting to come back a little bit. 45 overs, 43 unders, and I believe we've had like 5 pushes along the way. And favorites on the money line, 50-50, 45 and 45, with 16 of those favorites not covering the run line. So that's where we're seeing in baseball right now, and that's where we're getting trend-wise. Coming up next, how about if we do chat it up with one of our good friends, Colby Marchio of Better Day and Covers, right here on the Baseball Betting Show. Myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the Beast of Family Podcast.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. It's always great to be joined by this man, as we've got Colby Marchio aboard. He's doing such great work over at Better Day with the Off the Board podcast. He and Jake Hassan are doing a tremendous job on that front. Additionally, you're able to find him day in and day out doing everything on covers, whether that be articles, whether that be fun, entertaining videos, and so much more. He is a man that is all about, and if he hits a home run prop, you know that he is going to be going buck wild, and it's going to be a good time, to say the least. As for Colby, you're able to follow him on the old Twitter/X at Colby M. Bets altogether. And Colby, it's always a pleasure, my friend. Thank you.
Always a blast getting this intro. Always a blast being reminded that my neighbors definitely know my voice.
Absolutely. We all know that voice. It is one of the most distinct that you're going to find out there in sports betting, and we love you for it. And Kobe, how are you taking a look at the landscape of baseball right now? Because since we last talked, the trade deadline came and passed, and it just feels like out there in the American League, things are about as murky as very, 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 very muddy water, and I just still don't know what to make out of it.
It's going to be awesome. I love the chaos. I love what's brewing in the waters right now in the AL Central. It's already written in stone. The Tigers are going to win the Central. You can see it coming. You can see it brewing. I saw a post today that the White Sox have, I don't know what the exact stat is, or I forgot how it was worded, but they strike out more than they walk on full counts. Like, that's terrible. That's not a good stat to find out about a team that I love and hold near and dear to my heart this season. But the Tigers look fantastic. And more of the pitching side, because I think the offensive side, they're very inconsistent. We see them go hot and cold very quickly from the week as weeks go by. But their rotation is fantastic. They do a phenomenal job over there in Detroit, making sure their pitchers are fantastic. And then the whole thing, I'm a Yankee fan. I know everyone keeps hearing me talk about the White Sox, but I'm so down on them this year, and everyone else seems to love them. I see why as the weeks go by and the news breaks that Judge is going to be back soon. Stanton's running the bases. I mean, he's not fast around those bases, but he hasn't been that fast since his name was Mike Stanton, which was 2008, I believe. But the rotation's good for New York. I think it's still going to be a random team that comes out of the AL. The Dodgers are inevitable at this point. But I hope for chaos. At this point, Greg, to sum everything up that I'm trying to say and answer your question, I want chaos. I want the playoffs to be unbelievable, and I feel like the World Series won't be as good as last year, so I hope everything that leads up to it is as good.
Yep, I'm right there with you. I do want it to be a really nice postseason because I'm right there with you. Last year's World Series might have been one of the greatest World Series in the history of mankind, where Miguel Rojas, of all guys, was the savior of that Dodgers team. But with regards to the American League, I want to ask you about this team as well, because for the Red Sox, at one time they were 27-3 in the span of 30 games. They had that losing streak that finally came to an end on Thursday. How do we look at them? Because no doubt about it, they're much better than that team that we saw go more than 10 games below 500. I think we're also seeing that 27-3 run, that was just a magical run that I don't think is going to be duplicated. And I think it's trying to figure out where in between A and B this team truly is.
Yeah, and I bought in on them. I think they're a fantastic story. I am worried they're stealing the thunder from the White Sox on who has the better story and what manager deserves the award. But I mean, getting that hot in July, is it the greatest thing ever? Is it too early to be that hot? And I think you and I would both lean towards, it's probably not the best to be that hot in July. Do that in September leading into the playoffs. But they were going to cool off eventually, and then they did this week against the Blue Jays. But they're still a great team. If you haven't paid attention to the Red Sox lately, Peyton Tolle is an absolute joy to watch. That is one big old country bumpkin with a mustache. As a mustache man myself, love watching him. As a Yankee fan, it is very weird for me to be enjoying a Red Sox team, but they're such an enjoyable team. And I mention it all the time as kind of a bit, but I do mean it at the end of the day. The power of friendship is the most dangerous thing in sports. You see it with the White Sox, they're best friends. That is dangerous. The Red Sox, with all the stuff going around with Duran, is he going to get traded? Was he going to get traded at the deadline? And they were still winning games with the looming possibility of other guys going, and they're still having a blast. I think it's dangerous. I don't think we're going to see that run that we saw in July again, but I do think they have an opportunity of making a postseason run.
Yep, I'm right there with you. I do think that they've got a nice chance to be able to make a postseason run, and frankly, anyone that makes the playoffs out there in the American League, I think might be able to make a run because of how
I took them to come out of the AL. I took them 20-1 to come out of the AL. I thought it was too good of a price to pass up since it's a roll the dice. That's who's coming out of the AL.
Yep, I'm right there with you. Like, heck, if the Texas Rangers make the postseason, they might have
I bet them too. I bet them too, Greg. I don't remember the price I got on them. I think it was 16-1. At the break, I was looking at prices because there was boosts, and I'm like, I might as well look into something and boost something to possibly 20-1. And I was like, well, who's got a rotation? I mean, offense, whatever, but pitching will win you will win you 10 times out of 10 with a good rotation. And I'm like, okay, the Rangers have a good rotation. The Red Sox without Crochet still have a great rotation. I was like, if they're just hot at the right time. These teams can be dangerous. And maybe the Rangers aren't as good as the Red Sox offensively, but we know the capabilities of the Rangers. If Corey Seager's on fire, everyone else is on fire. Kind of like a Aaron Judge for the Rangers. It all matters on how well he's performing. The team's going to be performing as well.
Yep, I'm right there with you. And that leads into something that I think we should be looking at on the contrary as well as our good friend Colby Marchio. He does such great work over at Better Day and Covers joining me on the Baseball Betting Show. How much do we want to take a look at a team that they can score in a hurry and they are able to put up runs? Because what I think has been the hallmark of the second half of the baseball season, and I'm sure that you can attest to this as well, feels like scoring has been very down. We saw a nice scoring day on Wednesday, but past that, there have been a lot of unders all across baseball. It's been tough for any team to really get offense going, and I think that leads to a very interesting dynamic, not just here in the month of August, but what we're going to be seeing in postseason baseball, because scoring to start with in October always goes down.
Yeah, and I don't know if you saw it. I think it was Ballpark Pal that posted about the baseball changing the balls again and home runs being down significantly early on in August. And I think it's turning around now because, hey, maybe it's because we noticed. But you know how baseball is. They like to adjust the balls, and then everyone likes to put their tinfoil caps on. I just like to go day by day on what is actually true and what isn't. But I do get down with the bits. Like today with the Field of Dreams, I said they, without a doubt, will have the juice balls because they want to compete with NFL preseason, and they're going to have to. So they're going to want eyes. They're going to want fireworks. But it is really interesting to see how drastically low the scoring has been and the long balls. And I'm just trying to figure out maybe not paying more juice, but maybe looking for mispriced props here and there. I'm trying to think. I always talk about with you with the first 5 team totals. If I see a 1.5 and I really like an offense, I don't care what the price is. If it's under, say, minus 180 and I really like it, 180 is high. 170 is high. 160, I'm probably still pulling the trigger. But if it's 1.5, it's, in my opinion, it's wrong. If I like it, because you're not going to be like, oh, well, he's taking on Mizorowski. It makes sense if it's 1.5 taking on Mizorowski. But any other chance, if I'm looking into the offense, they're probably in a great spot to boom. Why is it 1.5? So I love looking at that stuff, making sure I'm not paying juice on a prop I probably shouldn't. Find value. And everyone uses that word, and I feel like it's overused at times. If you see the market every single day, you know what value is. I guess I'm not really good at explaining the term value because we throw it around so easily these days on the betting space. But it's going to be interesting to see with how if the scoring does go back up with everyone noticing that the balls are different.
Yep, I'm right there with you. And I do think that it could be a good time to zag while everyone else is zigging. When you get a big run of unders, typically that leads to some overs. And if you see an overwhelming week in baseball, well, the unders typically they're going to be coming about, especially if you get the overcorrections as well. And I do want to dive in on that a little bit more as well. Have there been a few guys that you've been looking at with regards to home run props here in the second half, or with the, shall we say, outage that we've been seeing in baseball with regards to a lot of the deep balls? Have you just been staying a little bit more away from them the last few weeks?
No, I've actually I'm 6 days in a row as of just now. I got the text that Schwarber homered, so expect a video after this recording, Greg, as we do this on Friday Junior, aka Thursday. I'm looking for guys barreling the hell out of the ball at the moment. I'm really honing in on that. Are they elite on batters hyphen box? Are they barreling over their last 10, 15, 5 games? And it's worked out. It's such a small thing to look at. I do love looking at elevation rate, fly ball plus line drive rate for those hitters and the pitcher. Does the pitcher give up barrels? Does the pitcher give up hard contact? There's a lot going into it, but if you just look at how they're doing as of late, are they making a ton of hard contact, making barrel rate, but not fully booming? They're not like on a 6-game home run streak, Junior Caminero, which I did not ride once. It's interesting. I'm still leaning into the home runs because I do love making the videos. 2, I have FOMO like everybody else. And 3, it's the best. There's nothing more satisfying than cashing a home run bet, in my opinion. So maybe I am forcing them, Greg, but I love them too much. Maybe it's a me problem.
You know what? Everyone loves a little bit of good, clean family fun. That's not a you problem. That's everyone loves good, clean family fun problem.
Responsibly, of course. Always responsible.
Of course, always responsibly, as we do have our good friend Colby Marchio joining me right here on the Baseball Betting Show and bringing this all full circle, because I know that there have been a few teams that you've been highlighting throughout the season, the Chicago White Sox certainly being one of them. And if you were just like me and you took them on Thursday, that was a heartbreaker. But that said, how do you take a look at this team moving forward? Because one thing I've noticed with the White Sox, very big home and road splits, and we are starting to see this with quite a few teams in baseball, especially the American League teams.
Yeah, I think for me, I'm more worried about them cooling off because of how hot they came out of the gate. I mean, the pitching has been pretty solid. I mean, we saw Luis Castillo throw 10 strikeouts yesterday. And I was maybe one of the few people that were like, okay, I don't hate them getting him. Is he the greatest pitcher? No. Is this a small sample size of great games he's had this season? Yes. But the weird thing is with the White Sox, they've done such a great job with their pitching staff. It's not the best. I've said a million times preseason that my biggest concern is how well is this rotation going to be? And I mean, is Davis Martin's the one that's completely fell off the earth? There's so many guys I feel like they have the same name. Sean Burke's been fantastic. They flip. Those guys flip. In my head, they're the same person. It's like the Orioles. But I'm just worried that they're cooling off at the worst possible time while the Tigers are scorching hot. I mean, I think they're 2.5 games up on the Tigers. They can't afford to lose games they should be winning. And I think they should have swept the Reds because the Reds are one of the more inconsistent teams, strikeout heavy teams in baseball. And it really stunk seeing them lose.
Yep, that was a little bit of a rough one. And hey, how are you taking a look at this Tigers team right now? Because I'm in lockstep with you in the fact that I do think that they have a lot of value. And I'm not sure if you've been noticing this as well. It really does feel like this is just a carbon copy of what they did 2 years ago when they made it via bullpen madness. They traded away Jack Flaherty at the trade deadline, and this year they trade away Tariq Skubal and Casey Mize at the trade deadline, and all of a sudden they're a better team without him.
That's the beauty of baseball. I mean, to sum it up, it's the beauty of baseball. I mean, last year we saw them completely fall apart while the Guardians went on a heater. Maybe they're just doing their version of that this season. I don't like the offense. I mean, McGonagall's great. Everyone else is just so inconsistent. Riley Green is such an interesting player that he's either hitting 2 home runs in back-to-back games or he's striking out 50 times in a week. There's no in between with that guy. Torkelson's hot or cold, but the pitching will always get them to win. I think there's a ton of value in finding them at plus money on a day-in-day basis at the moment with them being that hot.
Yep, I do think so as well. And what else I think provides a ton of value is getting you on this podcast, my friend, because Colby, you do such an excellent job over there with covers. You do a great job with Jake Hassan on the Off the Board podcast and so much more. So let the good people at home know it's all on tap for you and how people can follow along on social media and other platforms.
Of course. Always an honor, Greg. Always appreciate talking to you, even though I got a cold right now and I've just got a sinus headache right now. But I love talking baseball. Also, real quick, I'm gonna hijack this podcast. We talk baseball every single day. We want to bet baseball every single day. For those people talking football right now, be like, oh, we got to bet baseball today. Remember that, folks. Remember that, folks, when they post out their plays. Remember that. The people who want to bet on the game care about it a lot. I care about it a lot. You can find me at Colby M. Bets on Twitter/X. Covers every single day. My write-ups are there every single day. All my plays are for free. Find me on Pickett, Colby M. Bets as well. Everything's free. You need any questions, anything asked, D+ college student, I will do my best to get back to you.
A D+ college student. Now that's a sell job right there. I was always thinking C's get degrees personally.
D+ college student's my favorite bit.
All right, we do enjoy that. Just as long as you ace your bets, that is all that matters, my friend. And Colby, whenever he is on this podcast, he truly is an ace. So big thanks to Colby for joining me on the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. And coming up next, it is that time of the podcast. It gives you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Friday as we touch them all.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
We are back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Always a pleasure to be joined by our guy, Colby Marchio, who does such great work over at Better Day. I know on top of that, he's doing an amazing job taking a look at this great game that we all know and love of football. He's over at Covers, and every single time he joins me, that's such great insight. So Big thanks to Colby for joining me in the last segment. Now it is that time of the podcast. I give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Friday as we touch them all.
If a game is listed on the betting board, Greg has a side and a total on it, so it is time to touch them all.
Do note that as per usual, any changes that are made to these plays will be listed up on my Twitter/X feed at @GUnit_D1. We are going to be going in Las Vegas rotation order. This is where we go with the National League games first in time order, then the American League games in time order. Any interleague games, those are going to be at the bottom. That'll keep things all nice, neat, clean, and easy. So let's get things started. This is 9:51, 9:52 on the card. It is the Cardinals. They are going to be on the road facing off against the Chicago Cubs. Right now, the total is off the board due to the Wrigley Field wind situation. Do know that we're getting Matthew Liberatore going for the Cardinals. Clay Holmes is on the bump for the Cubs. And as of right now, the initial money line price is between -170 to -180 on the Cubs. Right now, seeing between +150 to +155 on the Cardinals. And if I can get a +154 or better, I will be in on the St. Louis Cardinals. Now, you take a look at how the wind is going to be playing in this one. It is going to be a lot more directional. It's not really going to be blowing in. It's not really going to be blowing outward. So I did set a little bit more of a tame total here to where it ain't at for less. I'm going to be in on the over, a 9 or higher to the under. For Matthew Liberatore, it has been a relatively miserable season for him. I am not going to lie. Do feel like there might be a little bit of positivity in for him, though, as he has been upping his swing and miss stuff from past years. 5.15 ERA, 470 fielding independent. Getting about 8.7 strikeouts per 9 innings. And then for Clay Holmes, this is going to be just his second start coming off the injury list. He was with the Mets for the longest of time, but he was trying to rehab from injury, gave up 4 runs in 4 innings in that first start against the Royals. I think that he's going to be a little bit more sharp here overall for the season at 2.86 ERA and has been a master of inducing soft contact, 0.6 home runs per 9 innings, but still 7.3 strikeouts, 3.2 walks per 9 innings. That does have to have you questioning that just a little bit. And then on the flip side of things for the offense of the Cubs, they have been a top 2 team in terms of run creation. They and the Washington Nationals both put up a bunch of runs in that series. Peaker Armstrong, he's been able to supply 27 home runs. He's up to right around about a 380 on base. Say Suzuki, he's been able to give you 20 bombs along the half. And for Suzuki, his on-base percentage is right around about a 350. Dansby Swanson doing a good job in terms of giving you a hard contact, but has been giving you less than a 300 on base as well. So that's going to need a little bit of help. And for the Cubs, it is still a bullpen that is very banged up. Now, they were able to get Ryan Zephyr on at the trade deadline. Probably going to need a little bit more because Caleb Theobar not cutting it. Still have Hobie Milner, Daniel Palencia on the injury list, but Ryan Rolson, Trent Thornton, Jacob Webb, these have all been guys that have gone out there, been able to give you a sub 325 ERA. And then on the flip side of things, have a bullpen of the St. Louis Cardinals that continues to be rough. Matt Savanson has not been great. Ryan Stanek, well above a 4 ERA. George Oriano, Riley O'Brien have really been the stalwarts for the team, sub 375 ERA. Justin Brule's been up and down all season long, but he's been much better recently as well. And for the Cardinals, they are a significantly better offense when they're away from home rather than at home. As a matter of fact, at home, they are last in the National League in terms of run creation. Meanwhile, on the road, they've been averaging well above 5.1 runs per game. That is right around 4th in all of baseball. And Jordan Walker has been a big reason why. 23 plus home runs, hitting about at 280. Have a bunch of other guys on the roster that they do just a nice job in terms of finding a way on base. Alec Burleson, J.J. Weatherall, 350 to 355 on base. Combined 35 home runs. Ivan Herrera has been able to give you 360 on base. Goes well above 375 when he's away from them. Now, you need a little bit more on some of these guys at the bottom of the fold, like whenever Victor Scott has been out there, Jimmy Crooks, guys like this. But I do like the over if it's an 8.5 or less, 9 or higher to the under. For the Cardinals, willing to go up to a plus 154 there, minus 152 or better looking at the Cubs. 9:53, 9:54 on the card. It is the Marlins, and they are going to be on the road facing off against the Cincinnati Reds. Yes, we're on to Cincinnati as Sandy Alcantara goes for the efficient Chase Burns for the Cincinnati Reds. Reds do find themselves between minus 114 to minus 116. Between even money to minus 105 is that number on the Miami Marlins. And the total on this game, it is 8 over and under, both between minus 105 to a minus 115. I do like the over. I did set my total here and 8.4, no doubt about Sandy Alcantara. He does a really good job in terms of keeping things out in front of him, not beating himself. But at the same time, the swing and miss stuff is not where it has been in the past. Right now, he's getting only about 1 home run allowed per 9 innings. He's giving up about 2.3 walks per 9, but the 7 strikeouts per 9 innings, that's on track to be a career low for him. And for the Miami Marlins, their team ERA is more than a full point higher when they leave home rather than at home. So that's been a bit of an issue. You've been dealing with a few injuries like Andrew Nardi, Anthony Bender on the injured list. You've had Calvin Fauché along with Pete Fairbanks in the bullpen be absolutely terrible. Michael Peterson, great name. He's been able to give you a sub 350 ERA, but even John King is starting to regress a little bit for this Marlins lineup. It's been one that has been up and down to say the least because they don't get a lot of power. They're bottom 17 in terms of home runs on a per at-bat basis, while Owen Casey has been able to give you 13 home runs, less than a 300 base out of him. Now Griffin Conine, a home run every about 13 to 14 at-bats, and then you do have Xavier Edwards, Otto Lopez, Jacob Marcy, Asterio Ruiz. All these guys give you 18 plus home bases. That's really been the forte of this team with Edwards, 360 on base. Lopez is hitting above 300, and then Ruiz, he himself is about a 380 on base, but some of these guys like Leo Menes and company just not give you a lot at the plate. And then you have a Reds team that has been a little bit more top heavy because they, at the bottom of the fold, have a lot of guys that need to be picking it up because you've had TJ Friedel, Brian Hayes, Matt McClain, bunch of guys hitting at 215 or lower. Now JJ Leday only hits it for a batting average of a 218, but 332 on base, 20 plus home runs out of him. LA David Cruz, he's up to a 350 on base. He's up over 20 home runs. Now Eugenio Suarez is starting to give you a little bit more power. 4 RBI yesterday, 18 home runs, but still hitting just a 205, and then because it's Al Stewart really carrying the mail for the team, 340 on base. He's been able to give you 25 plus home runs. Do have TJ Antone, Brock and Roberto who have been able to give you sub 350 ERA in that bullpen, but Emilio Pagan has been all sorts of rough. Sam Moll has not really been able to give you a lot. These mix and match long guys like Chase Petty and company, Lewis May, they have not been very good, but I think that Chase Burns just goes out there and dominates this game. I know that his fielding dependent does not quite match up with the 261 ERA up to a 327 fielding dependent, but still, he's been able to supply about 10.4 strikeouts per 9 innings. He's only giving up about 3.3 walks per 9, so I do think that for the Reds, they do find a way to be able to persevere, get the job done here. Like the over, so I total at an 8.4, and I'm going to be in on the Reds money line. I set them at minus 138, 955, 956 on the card. The Nationals are going to be on the road against the Metropolitans as Robert Stock. We take stock in him making this start, and you've got one Mr. Andrew Alvarez going for the Washington Nationals. As of right now, most places have this game off the board, but I've got my handicap. I did set the Nationals at a plus 104, so plus 105 or better looking there, minus 103 or better the Mets, and then set a total of an 8.38 or less in on the over, 8.5 higher the under. So in layman's terms, I'm probably going to be taking the underdog in this game with Robert Stock. He's had 2 starts with the New York Mets. He's a 36-year-old that tried to be able to ascend from the minor league level, so that's a long and winding road to say the least. And first start was really good. Second start was absolutely awful. So you've got a sample size of 8 innings, 10-13 ERA, but a 495 fielding dependent. He is giving up a lot of walks, 5.5 walks per 9 innings, and that's been the MO of his career. Like you take a look at his entire MLB career, 5.3 walks per 9 innings, but does get a little bit over 9 strikeouts per 9 innings. Was dominant at the minor league level, but he's never really been able to put it together at the big league level. And then for Andrew Alvarez, he is someone that has been able to do a really good job in terms of keeping the ball in the yard. For Alvarez, he is giving up only about 0.3 home runs per 9 innings. The ERA is not necessarily the world's lowest at a 376, but a 309 fielding dependent, and he was getting about 8.4 strikeouts per 9 innings. Faces off against a Mets bunch that ever since Juan Soto's been out of the fold, they've been averaging darn near 5 runs per game. So they have actually been significantly better since he went on the injured list. I don't know if that's going to be a mainstay though. Carson Bench has been a guy that has really been able to pick it up for the team. He's up to 13 home runs. He's been able to about a 275. And then you've got Marcus Semien, who's giving you 14 home runs. Good, just a 270 on base out of him. Francisco Alvarez, AJ Ewan, between a 330 to a 340 on base. Jacob Young, he's been able to do a relatively solid job as well. And then you've been able to get some good production as well. Recently out of Francisco Lindor. Since coming off the injury list, he's been a little bit better. For the Mets, you do have to have all sorts of question marks with this bullpen, though, because you trade away the likes of Oscar Brisbane. They trade away Brooks Raley, Luke Weaver, all those good long guys, and now you're looking at Jeffrey Yan, who seems to have some upside. Nate Lavender is a young guy that they're looking to, and even Devin Williams is now on the injury list for the team as well, so lots of question mark on that front. Meanwhile, for the Washington Nationals, well, bullpen has been awful all season long, as you've got a guy in Orlando Robalto who's been able to give you a sub-350 ERA. Getting Brad Lord off the injury list should be able to help out. I like Clayton Beater, and Giovanni Cruz seems to have a little bit of upside, but still lots of unknowns there. For the Washington Nationals, this team leads the big leagues in terms of run creation, but now you do have James Wood currently on the injury list. CJ Abrams, he's been leading the National League in home runs since the All-Star break, 29 bombs, over 350 on base. He's been great. Dylan Cruz still just has not been able to live up to his billing. I do like Andre Shapiro. That'll give you over 335 on base, and then Dallin Lyle has been able to give you 15 home runs after throwing there into Nasim Nunez. The fact that he's got 40 stolen bases this season. So interesting circumstance here. Probably going to just take a shot on the underdog, whoever they may be. Plus 105 or better looking at the Nationals, minus 103. The Mets, and then 8 or less like the over, 8.5 or higher the under. 9:57, 9:58 on the card. The Diamondbacks are going to be on the road against the Atlanta Braves as Chris Sale looks to not sell for the Braves, and Brandon Pfaadt is going to be battling for Arizona. And Arizona does find themselves as a pretty good-sized underdog here. Right now, the initial line is a minus $2 on the Atlanta Braves, plus 180 for the Arizona Diamondbacks. Right now, I'm not seeing any totals out there. For me, with my total 7.5 or less, going to be in on the over, and 8 or higher to the under. If I could get a plus 174 better, I'm going to be in on the Arizona Diamondbacks on the money line for Brandon Pfaadt. Ever since he has come back to the rotation for this team, he has been absolutely stellar, because for Brandon Pfaadt, he has been just able to do an incredible job in terms of holding it down and not giving up a lot of hard contact. He was really shaky towards the beginning part of the season. Things were just not going his way, to say the least, and ever since he has come back for the team, he has been able to supply a sub-2 ERA. His home runs per 9 rate is less than 0.3. He has absolutely been able to just ascend, and he's been able to reach his full potential. So I really like what he's providing for the team, and I don't think that he's given up more than 2 runs in a single start ever since returning to the rotation in his last 8 starts. So he has been that good for the team. Meanwhile, for Chris Sale, obviously he's been one of the best pitchers in all of baseball. He gets a much higher swing and miss rate than Brandon Pfaadt. Pfaadt is actually getting less than 7 strikeouts per 9 innings this year. For Chris Sale, he's got a 2.20 ERA, 11 strikeouts, 0.6 home runs allowed per 9 innings, and he is backed up by the better bullpen in this case. For the Atlanta Braves, they have been number 1 in the National League in terms of bullpen ERA. The Dillons, Dylan Lee, Dylan Dodd, along with Raciel Iglesias, I'll give you a sub-325 ERA. They're still dealing with Robert Suarez being on the injury list, but for this Braves bunch, you've been able to get a lot of these guys doing a really good job in terms of just providing mix and match innings for this team. Even Victor Medeiros has been able to step up for them recently. For the Braves, they do continue to be a top 8 team in terms of run creation as well. Getting back Ronald Acuna Jr. is massive for them, as he's looked really good since coming off the injury list. You would still like to see him get a little bit closer to MVP form, but I mean, that pairs well with the fact that Ozzy, Albies, and Michael Harris are both giving you 20 home runs apiece. Matt Olson leading the way with 35 bombs. Even a guy like a Mauricio Dubon is hitting at 265. You've had good production out of Dom Smith, who's been able to find a way on. And then on the other end for the Arizona Diamondbacks, just hasn't necessarily been a team that has hit the deep ball, but they do have guys who are getting on base. Gabriel Moreno, he's been able to turn near a 300. Ketel Marte of the Marte Parte, 21 home runs. He's hitting about a 250. Corbin Carroll, Nolan Arenado, both of these guys are giving you 18 home runs apiece. Both are hitting only about a 240 to a 245, though. And then you've got someone like a Tim Tebow, who's giving you less than a 300 on base. Lourdes Gurriel has just been a nothing burger, and he's back on the injury list. The guys like Jorge Perosa and company at the bottom of the fold need a little bit more there, but Ilyarmo Vargas still give you about a 270. And then for the Diamondbacks, they DFA Paul Sewell. That actually helps out the bullpen quite a bit. Kevin Ginkel has been a little bit shaky for the team, but you do have quite a few trustworthy guys in this bullpen. The folks like a Taylor Clark, Braden Garcia, Juan Murillo, Gerald Carrillo. I mean, you got a whole bunch of guys that are giving you a sub-250 ERA. I know that for Ryan Thompson, it's been a little bit more shaky for him, but I mean, still, it's a bullpen that I think is relatively trustworthy. So 7.5 or less, going to be in on the over, 8 or higher to the under. And if I could get plus 174 or better, looking at the Saints, we'll be willing to go up to a minus 172 on Atlanta. 9:59, 9:60 on the card. The Brewers are going to be on the road against the LA Dodgers. Yoshinobu Yamamoto is going for the Dodgers, and Robert Gasser is on the bump for the Brewers, and the Brewers do find themselves as a pretty good-sized underdog here. Going to be finding them between plus 145 to a plus 158, minus 175 to a minus 188. That's your number on Los Angeles, and total on scheme, it is 8. The under is minus 120. The over is even. On the 7.5, over is minus 120. The under is even money, and for the Dodgers, set them at a minus 192. If you're looking to lay run at, by the way, with them, you're going to be finding that at plus money of about plus 115 to a plus 125. I'm going to take that plus money run line. I just am not necessarily feeling Robert Gasser when he's away from home. Now, he does feel like he's rounding into a better pitcher in general. He had a really good minor league numbers over the last few seasons, but overall for the season, 457 ERA, giving up a lot of hard contact, 1.5 home runs per 9 innings. The swing and miss stuff, not quite where it ever was at the minor league level as well, only about about 8.2 strikeouts per 9 innings. And you take a look at what he's done on the road this year, a 4.87 ERA, 7 home runs allowed in 30 2/3 innings, and he's giving up about 2 home runs per 9 innings when he's away from home. Meanwhile, for Yoshinobu Yamamoto, actually has a career ERA that is significantly higher when he's at home rather than away from home. Swing and miss stuff has been a little bit down this year to about 8.2 strikeouts per 9 innings. Last 2 years was above 10 strikeouts per 9 innings, but still, he's been able to supply a sub-3 ERA, but getting to those home and road splits, and this is not just one season, this is the entire career for Yamamoto. Career 207 ERA away from home, 334 at home. Does face off against the Milwaukee Brewers team that has been a top 7 offense in terms of run creation. Not really doing so via the deep ball. You've been able to have Jake Bauers give you 21 plus home runs, and he's up to about a 370 on base, so that's been big. Jackson Trio, he's hitting at 275, and he and Bryce Durang have both been able to give you a 16 plus home runs thus far this season, but you take a look down the line, and it's a little bit questionable as to what you're going to be able to get out of the just power of the rest of these guys, but you know that they're going to reach base. Like Andrew Vaughn, he's hitting about a 295. Christian Yelich, he's been not so great to say the least this year, but you know that you're going to be able to have David Hamilton swipe some bags with 22 stolen bases. William Contreras has given you about a 330 on base. Gary Mitchell, 350 on base. Same goes for Cooper Pratt, who's more around about a 370 on base. And then for the Dodgers, they're actually averaging a full run per game fewer when they're at home rather than away from home. But you have Shohei Ohtani, 27 home runs over a 4 on base. Freddie Freeman hitting above a 300, 15 plus home runs. Andy Paz continues to give you 19 home runs. Kyle Tucker seems to be rounding into a better form along with Mookie Betts after they had rough starts to the season. And when it comes to the Dodgers, still dealing with quite a few injuries. Blake Trinan now on the 68A injury list. Brock and Roll Stewart, he's been dealing with a little bit of ailment as well. And Kyle Hurt just has not been himself recently. But to have the likes of Alex Vesia, Tanner Scott, Jack Dreher, who've been able to give you sub 325 ERA. Edwin Diaz seems to be rounding back into a little bit of better form, but it's been a bit shaky for him. And this is a Brewers team that has been a top 6 team in terms of bullpen ERA. Have the likes of Abner Uribe, Trevor McGill, who've been able to give you a sub 350 ERA. Still waiting on Jojo Romero to be able to get back in the fold, who they traded for. Aaron Ashby has been a little bit suspect recently, but Chad Patrick has been a pretty good long guy as well. So circumstance where with the Dodgers plus 105 or better, going to be looking at that run line. And I did set my total at an 8.7, so on the 7.5 to 8, I'm going to be in on the over. 961, 962 on the card. The Giants are going to be playing goes to the Colorado Rockies. Kyle Freeland goes for the Rockies. Landon Roop is on the bump for the San Francisco Giants. The Giants who find themselves in between minus 122 to minus 132 favorites, in between plus 105 to plus 110 is that number on Colorado. 8 is a total. The over and the under are both at minus 110. And when it comes to the Rockies, I did set them at a plus 168. I don't understand how we're getting minus 122 to minus 130 here, so I'm going to be willing to lay it with these San Francisco Giants. Kyle Freeland has been all sorts of awful this season. Now, the Rockies have won back-to-back games on the road entering into the series, but they're still winning less than 34% of their games away from home this season. So, I mean, it's been just a big, giant disaster there for Freeland. A 663 ERA. Now, you'll look at the fielding independent number of a 465. A point towards a little bit of positivity, but a 1.7 home runs, 2.1 walks a lot per 9 innings. And when it comes to him on the road, he has been significantly worse. 0-7 with a 7.81 ERA, and he's given up just a hair below 2 home runs per 9 innings. Meanwhile, for Landon Roop, he's been posting up an ERA of a 4.22 with more of a 3.52 fielding independent, and he's getting about 9 strikeouts per 9 innings. The big issue for him has been the walks, of 4.1 walks per 9 innings, and he does face off against a Rockies team that is a top 10 team in terms of total run creation. Obviously not quite the same team when they're away from home rather than at home, but still, you've got Hunter Goodman, who's been a good man with 34 plus home runs. TJ Bromfield has been able to just a hair below 300 as well. You've got Mickey Moniak, who's been able to give you 17 plus home runs. He's been hitting well above a 275, so you've been able to have so many of these guys be able to step up in this lineup. Jake McCarthy, Cole Carrick, both of these guys hitting in the neighborhood about a 300 as well. And then for Bromfield and McCarthy, they're both up to 13 home runs apiece. Then for the San Francisco Giants, Rafael Devers has no doubt been a bit of a waste of money for the team, but he's been actually much better recently. He's on pace for well above 30 home runs this year. He's up to 24 bombs. He's been able to about a 245, and then you've been able to get good production out of Willie Adames with regards to power. Need better than the 285 on base, but he is up to 19 home runs. Casey Schmidt has been dealing with injuries, so that's been hurting the team a little bit, but Bryce Eldridge continues to move the line with about a 340 on base. You've had Jungle Lee hit just a hair below a 300 as well, and Daniel Susic, when he's been at the catcher spot, he's been relatively effective as well. It is a Giants bullpen that, well, it's been a little bit of a disappointment for them, but now you're getting some guys off the injury list like Keaton Wynn, Sam Entages, these have been a pair of guys that have been able to give you a sub-350 ERA. JT Brubaker, Dylan Smith, these guys are solid as well. Now when you go into the longer relief like Jason Foley, Matt Gage and company, and Gage has been dealing with injury, that has not been great to say the least. And it's been even worse, the Colorado Rockies bullpen. They trade away Antonio Sensatella along with a few others at the trade deadline. And other than Brandon Bernardino, you really just don't have a lot of reliability for this team. Jay Mill, Juan Mejia, these are guys give you well above a 5 ERA this season. Been able to have a few guys be able to step up. Jordan Romano in a Colorado Rockies uniform has been okay, but he was absolutely terrible with the Angels. So after you have your question marks here, Zach Ognos, he's posting up well above a 5 ERA. So do you think that the Giants should be able to go out there, get the job done? Made my total at 8.4, so like the over and the Giants on the money line. 963, 964 on the card. It is the Tigers. They're going to be playing against the Chicago White Sox as Jackson Jobe is going to be on the bump for the Tigers. Right now it's listed as TBD for the White Sox, which is why this game is off the board. The expectation, according to Fangraphs, is that Jose Urquidy is going to be making the start, and if that is the case, set the Tigers at a minus 120, would be willing to go to a minus 127 there, plus 129 or better looking at the White Sox, and then I made a total of an 8.7, so 8.5 or less, going to be in on the over, a 9 or higher to the under. Whether you get Jose Urquidy or not, this is going to be a mix and match game for the White Sox. I don't think that there's any way humanly possible that Urquidy is going to be giving you much more than like a few innings, because at the big league level this year, his last appearance came in like April, and he was throwing like an inning or two apiece. I think that he was with the Pittsburgh Pirates, I would like to say, and they've been trying to build him up at the minor league level. He's made like 20 minor league starts as far this season, and hasn't been too bad there, but he's never been really a great swing and miss guy. So I do think that this is a mix and match game to begin the season, and if he does go, which I do expect him to, Sean Newcomb, who's been a relatively good long guy for the team, sub 3 ERA, he's able to give some length. He should be the opener here, as you've got Newcomb, who I mentioned before, Grant Taylor, who have been able to give you a sub 350 ERA, even Trevor Richards. For the White Sox, they did have to dive into that bullpen quite a bit yesterday. Davis Martin leaves after 2 innings, so that does hurt the team a little bit. Richards probably got burnt up in that game as well, but for the White Sox, you know that this team can power their way to victory, have a trio of different guys, Colson Montgomery, Montaka Murakami, along with Miguel Vargas, all with at least 23 home runs this season. Now, Montgomery is hitting for like a 215 and less than a 300 on base, but Murakami's up to about a 365 on base. You've been able to get really good production out of Randall Grichuk whenever he's been in the fold. He's a veteran that is able to help out this young team. Chase Meadroth, 355 on base. Sam Antonacci, more around about a 370 on base. And then, flip side of things, have a Tigers team that's trotting out their Jackson Jobe for a second start of the season. And when he was at the big league level last year, his ERA was not bad, but he was giving up 5 walks per 9 innings. Looked really sharp in his first start against the Giants. He goes out there for 5 shutout innings. I don't know if that's quite going to be striking twice, but he did look good as well in his minor league rehab appearances as well. Do have a Tigers unit that right now is Dylan Dingler, has been absolutely mashing. He's been able to give you 25 plus home runs this season. You've been able to get back Gleyber Torres with over a 365 on base. Riley Green has given you about a 365 on base. A.O. Lee has been able to move the line. Spencer Torkelson, 20 plus home runs. He's been able to do a relatively solid job there as well. And then Javi Baez coming back. That's huge. And for the Tigers, this has been a top 6 team in terms of bullpen ERA ever since June 1st. You've been able to have these mix and match guys do a great job in terms of holding down the fort. I absolutely love what I've been seeing out of Drew Anderson, who they've now been transitioning into a little bit more of a starter's role, and then Ty Madden has really taken over that bulk role. He's been able to give you a sub-250 ERA. Jacob Giesbach has been posting up a sub-2 ERA. They're getting back Brendan Enifee, who's been relatively shaky since coming off the injuries, but I do think that he's going to round into form in the way that Drew Summers has. He's down to about a 3.60 ERA. Kyle Finnegan continues to be relatively reliable, and Emmanuel De Jesus has actually been really good recently for the team. So, circumstance where minus 127 or better, going to be looking at the Tigers plus 129 or higher the White Sox, and then 8.5 or less in on the over 9 or higher the under. 965, 966 on the card. It is the Yankees. They're going to be on the road against the Blue Jays. Shane Bieber has a fever for getting outs. Garrett Cole is on the bump for the Yankees. Yankees are between minus 150 to minus 158 favorites, plus 125 to plus 135 for Toronto. 7.5 to 8 is the total on the 7.5. Over is minus 120. The unders even on the 8. Over and under both at minus 110. And I did set the Yankees at a minus 134. I'm starting to see a plus 135 pop up on the Blue Jays. That puts me in on their money line. Now, for Shane Bieber, it's been a rough season for him. 594 fielding dependent, 5.48 ERA, giving up in terms of home runs per 9, right about 4.9 walks per 9 innings. That said, better recently with the 2 earned runs or fewer allowed in 4 out of his last 6 starts. Did get let up in his last start against the Philadelphia Phillies, but I've been noticing that a lot of his struggles have been coming when he has been away from home. When he's been in Toronto this season, his ERA goes down to a 2.86 on the road and 8.27. So, 9-day difference there, and for Garrett Cole. He's done a nice job rounding into form. He was injured all of last season. He's come back and has now given up 2 earned runs for fewer than 4 of his last 5 starts. And the swing and miss stuff is very much back as well. He's up to about 9.7 strikeouts per 9 innings. He's had a little bit of an issue with the deep ball, giving up 1.2 home runs per 9 innings. And he does get to go up now against a Blue Jays team that has been one of the worst teams in all baseball in terms of going yard. As Kazuma Okamoto, he's been able to give you 24 plus home runs, lone guy on the roster. That's been able to give you 12 plus home runs for the Blue Jays. They're a bottom 5 offense with about 4 runs per game, but I do think that they're going to do an okay job in terms of moving the line here. You still have a guy in Ernie Clement who's been able to about a 280. Flagger Jr., no question about it, just continuing to struggle, hitting about a 260, but you're getting back AC Sanchez, Nathan Luke's pair of guys hitting above a 260 themselves, and you've seen a few of these young guys be able to step up. I think there might be a little bit of upside with Charles McAdoo, who they just brought up, and on the flip side for the New York Yankees, not like they're lighting the world on fire with their offense. Last 41 games, averaging 3.5 runs per contest. I do think that Luis Garcia is going to continue to make a big impact, 20 plus home runs, began the season with the Washington Nationals, and George Lombard, pair of home runs, hitting about a 275. The catcher spot, though, has been a big giant issue. Ahmed Rosario is giving you nothing. Ryan McMahon is as well for the Blue Jays. It has been a little bit of an up and down bullpen, to say the least, and they probably are going to need to use a lot of that bullpen in this game. You've got a pair of guys I really like in Tyler Rogers and Louis Varland. They both have been able to give you a sub 2.35 ERA. And then you got Spencer Miles, who's a good long guy that's able to give you a sub 3.50 ERA. Braden Fisher has rounded into form, sub 3.55 out of him. Now, they did have to use up Lazaro Estrada yesterday and a few other guys as they only got 5 innings out of Max Scherzer. Flip side for the New York Yankees, they should be relatively rested with their bullpen. Max Fried maybe didn't give the world's greatest amount of length, but still, you've got a lot of guys in this bullpen like Fernando Cruz, Brian Hedrick, Paul Blackburn. These guys are able to give you a sub 3.50 ERA. And then Yuri De Los Santos is coming back for them. Should be probably unavailable in this game because he was used for 20 plus pitches yesterday, but just getting him back I think is very impactful. Do think that Shane Bieber gives up some runs, but I do think that the Blue Jays find a way to get to Garrett Cole just a little bit. I do like the over, so I might tell it at 8.1, and for the Blue Jays plus 135 or better in on that money line. 967, 968 on the card. This might be the biggest game of mystery as the Baltimore Orioles are going to be on the road facing off against the Tampa Bay Rays. We do know that Steven Matz is going to be going for the Rays, and Chris Bassett is rumored to be coming off the injury list for the Orioles. So this is a game that pretty much across the board, it is off the board. And if you do indeed get Chris Bassett going up against Steven Matz, I set the Rays at a minus 152. So minus 151 or better, I'm going to be looking at them plus 153 or better. That's going to be a shot for me on the Orioles, and then made by total in 8.2, and 8 or less going to be in on the over, and 8.5 or higher to the under with Bassett. It is a case where if he actually does make this start, you have to wonder what you're going to be able to get out of him, just because this is going to be his first start since really the beginning of the month of June 3rd to be exact, and he just wasn't very good to start with this season. Swing and miss stuff has been way down, 5.9 strikeouts per 9 innings. Not that he was necessarily a flamethrower towards the beginning part of his career, but no doubt about it, that's a little bit rough. Now, the good news is he hasn't given up much of the deep ball this far this season. He's only giving up 1 home run per 9 innings, but he also has been issuing about 3.5 walks per 9 innings. The Orioles probably won't need him to go very deep, though. So if you don't get Chris Bassett, I'm not going to change his handicap very much, because for the Baltimore Orioles, this has actually been a top 8 team in terms of bullpen ERA since June 1st. You've had a pair of guys in Junior Cano along with Uncle Rico Garcia who've done a nice job stepping up, giving you a sub 3.25 ERA. Additionally, you've been able to get some good long relief out of some of these guys like an Albert Suarez after a rough start to the season. Andrew Kittredge has been much better in this bullpen as well. They do trade away Tyler Wells, who ironically enough is on the flip side for the Rays, a Rays bullpen that is getting much better. They DFA Craig Kimbrell, so that's always going to be able to help you out. Additionally, you've been able to have someone like a Brian Baker, another former Orioles, like half the Rays bullpen is former Orioles. He's been able to give you a sub 2.25 ERA. Kevin Kelly has been able to do a nice job as well. And for the Rays, you just have a little bit more wallop in this lineup, because for the Baltimore Orioles, you do trade away Adley Rutschman at the trade deadline. And while I like the fact that Gunnar Henderson gives you 18 plus home runs, less than a 300 base, you've got these guys like a Tyler O'Neill, Colton Cowser, even Leody Taveras, a lot of guys hitting at 225 or lower. Well, for the Rays, you've got Chandler Simpson, who's been swiping a bunch of bags and hitting at 300. You've got 3 main boom guys, Yandy Diaz, along with Jonathan Aranda, both at between 15 to 16 home runs in the neighborhood of 365 to a 375 on base. And then Junior Caminero over 33 home runs. He's been giving you over the 370 on base, but even a guy like a Nick Fortes has been able to move the line. They've all been relatively good mix and match pieces. As we know, the Trop, it does a nice job in terms of suppressing offense a little bit. And this has been a Baltimore Orioles team that hasn't scored quite the same amount of runs when they've been away from home rather than at home, only scoring about 4.4 runs per game when they're away from home. And going to be interesting to see how the Rays try to be able to maneuver this one. As Steven Matz, he is going to be the opener/starter, and he has had his struggles recently. A 5.46 ERA since they've had him coming out of the bullpen. It just has been a little bit of a mismatch. He's been better here in the month of October, but he's only been going 1 or 2 innings at a time when he's been in a little bit more of a full bulk role. Hasn't necessarily been amazing with about 6.9 strikeouts per 9 innings, but I don't expect him to be long for this game. So 8 or less is going to be in on the over, 8.5 higher to the under, and I'm willing to lay up to minus 151 here with the Rays, plus 153 or better. Going to be looking at the Orioles. 969, 970 on the card. It is the Astros. They're going to be playing us the Mariners as George Kirby goes for the Mariners and Peter Lambert goes for the Astros. Astros do find themselves here as a very slim favorite of minus 124 to a minus 135, plus 106, a plus 110. Then around Seattle, 8 to 8.5 is the total. On the 8, over is minus 115. The under is minus 105. On the 8.5, the under is minus 115, and the over, that is minus 105. And I'm going to put myself in on the Mariners here, as for the Mariners, I need at least a plus 113 to be able to take a shot there, and I am starting to see a plus 115 come into the market. And with Peter Lambert, he's been able to do a nice job in terms of not really hurting himself with the deep ball, but I do have a little bit of trepidation with the walks, and he's not necessarily a guy that's going to light up the radar gun. Really, neither of these guys are. George Kirby, career low, just a hair below 8 strikeouts per 9 innings. Peter Lambert, relatively on par with that. As for Lambert, 8.8 strikeouts, 3.5 walks per 9 innings, only giving up the 1 home run per 9 innings, but through a 9 ERA, 387 fielding. Depending on the flip side for George Kirby throughout his career, he has always had some very demonstrative home and road splits, but he's been able to work on those a little bit, and I truly believe that he's better than the 368 ERA would indicate. Closer to a 366 fielding dependent. He's still only giving up the 1.9 walks per 9 innings, so the command has been very buttoned up and rock solid. And for Kirby on the road, about a 4.10 ERA compared to a 3.40 ERA, and he's, in terms of home runs per 9, giving up a relatively the same amount when he's away from home. So he's been able to do a little bit of better job on that front for the Mariners. The bullpen has still been dealing with some injuries. Having Matt Brash and Cooper Criswell in the fold has hurt them. And then Jose Ferreira has been starting to dip a little bit. He's seen his ERA go above a 3, but Edward Pizzardo has been able to do a relatively solid job in this bullpen. Nick DeVilla has been able to give you some okay innings as well. So they've been mixing and matching there. And for Michael Rucker, he's probably been the weak link for this bullpen. But the big thing for this team, just getting a little bit of offense. Going into the series against the New York Yankees, dead last in the big leagues in terms of run creation. And for Cal Raleigh, he has went from being the big dumper to just taking a big dump. As right now he's hitting less than $1.75. He's getting less than a home run every 20 at bats. So that has just not been cutting it. But do have a guy in Randy Arozarena, give you about a 370 on base. He, Dom Canzone, the currently injured Luke Raley, Cole Young, a lot of guys between 14 and 18 home runs for this unit. And Josh Naylor not really hitting for power, but he's been able to swipe a few bags as well. On the flip side for the Astros, obviously, Yordan Alvarez has been amazing. He continues to give you over a 435 on base, over 30 home runs, and then Jeremy Pena. He's been able to above a 300 for this team. The big issue that I still have with the Astros is that they're a little bit top heavy. Even though Yanier Diaz is able to give you a batting average above a 260, he draws absolutely no walks whatsoever, so he doesn't give you really any sort of an on base. And then you've got these mix and match outfielders that just have not been able to step up. Taylor Trammell's hitting at 235, so he's been relatively okay, but you've got so many guys like Zach DeZenzo, Zach Cole, Lamont Wade Jr., Cam Smith, the currently injured Bryce Matthews, Lamont Wade Jr., all these guys hitting at 225 or lower. Now, Fort Smith, he has been able to give you 16 home runs, but still not really moving the line. That said, though, this has been an Astros bullpen that has been remarkable since June 1st. They have been a top 5 team in terms of bullpen ERA. Getting back Josh Hader has made all the difference in the world, and these guys that really struggled towards being part of the season, maybe their overall season ERAs are not necessarily too impressive, but someone like Brian King has gotten himself down to about a sub-4 ERA. AJ Bluebaugh is at about a 3.48 ERA. Bennett Sosa, Stephen Okert, these guys are both giving you a 3 ERA or better as well, so they've been able to be very reliable for this team. Brian Abreu still had a rough season, but he's been significantly better recently as well. So It is a fascinating circumstance here. I do think, though, that for the Mariners, they're going to be able to get a good start out of George Kirby. I do like them on the money line at a plus 114 or better. And with this total, I did set mine at an 8.2. Right now, we're seeing between 8 to 8.5. Personally, I'd rather have an 8.5 to the under rather than an 8 to the over. 971, 972 on the card. It is the Royals. They are going to be on the road against the Angels, as it is going to be Seth Lugo going for the Royals and Grayson Rodriguez for Los Angeles. Right now, with the Angels, you're going to be finding them anywhere between even money to minus 112, between minus 105 to minus 108 is that number on Kansas City. So on this game, it is 9. The over and the under are both at minus 110, and I'm willing to go up to a minus 105 on the Angels on the money line. Set this at a minus 106. These are two teams that have really been struggling, especially on the offensive end of things. I do think that the travel for the Royals are going to catch up with them. And for Seth Lugo, he's been a reliable pitcher. He's a guy that's not going to hurt himself. He's not going to light the world on fire, as his strikeouts per 9 rate is hovering in the neighborhood about a 7, but 1.1 home runs, 3.1 walks per 9 innings, but even though they moved the fences in at Kauffman Stadium, he's been significantly better at home rather than away from home. 5.31 ERA away from home over 1.7 home runs per 9 innings at home, only giving up about 0.7 home runs per 9 innings with a 3.70 ERA, and I do think that for Grayson Rodriguez, as bad of a season as it's been, he's up to a 7.20 ERA. There's some positivity doing for him, 5.08 fielding independent, 1.5 home runs, 4.3 walks allowed per 9 innings, but he has given up now 3 earned runs or fewer in each out of his last 3 starts, 6+ strikeouts in each out of his last 3 as well. That's big because he is a power pitcher, and for the Angels, since June 1st, it's actually been a league average team in terms of bullpen area. Again, I'm not saying that this is some sort of amazing bullpen. It's not very reliable, but at the same time, it feels like it's getting a little bit better as some of these guys, like a Luke Murphy, Sammy Natera, Jose Fermin, they've been able to give you a sub 350 ERA. You're getting Ben Joyce off the injury list. Blake Wyman in a small sample size has looked pretty solid this far this season. Getting out the really old, terrible veterans has been helping out the team. And for the Kansas City Royals right now, they are 29th out of 30 teams in terms of bullpen ERA. Like, man, it's not great when you got these guys like Alex Lang, Steven Cruz, Lucas Ursich, all posting up above a 4 ERA. Nate Pearson should be relatively solid for this bullpen moving forward, and John Schreiber's down to about a 3.77 ERA, but I think that Carlos Esteves injury just absolutely destroyed them. And for the Kansas City Royals, they're averaging 3.6 runs per game away from home. That is dead last in all baseball. Vinny Pasquantino's back on the injury list. Salvador Perez is on deal with a little bit of injury as well. Now some of these guys like John Rave, Tyler Tolbert, they're hitting above a 255. Nick Lofton is able to move the line a little bit as well, but just not a lot of pop outside of really Jack Aglione, who's been able to give you 21 home runs. Carter Jensen has been okay on this front as well with about 16 bombs, but now he's hitting below 225. Obviously, you've got Bobby Witt Jr. swiping a bunch of bags, and he's done a solid job for this unit. And then on the flip side of things, it's a case where you've got an Angels team that's averaging about 2.6 runs per game ever since the All-Star break. Have a pair of guys with 19 plus home runs and Zach Neto along with Mike Trout, and Trout above a 370 on base, but he's really not hitting for a lot of average. Wade Meckler has been. He's been hitting a 300, but these guys like a Denzar Guzman is hitting below a 230. Moises Ballesteros, Josh Flo, you're getting absolutely nothing out of them whatsoever. Does this pitching matchup wow you? No, but at the same time, I think that we're in for a low-scoring game. I saw my total at 8.4. Like the under for the Angels, 1 up to a minus 105 on the money line. 973, 974 on the card. It is the Rangers. They are going to be on the road against the Athletics, and it is going to be old to be determined against to be determined according to the betting board. I was seeing with regards to projections on Fangraphs, Kumar Rocker going up against Gage Jump. This shouldn't change too much regardless of who the Athletics are going to be throwing, because all these guys have been awful at home. But I mean, as long as you get this sort of a pitching matchup, set the Rangers where I'm willing to lay up to a minus 137 with them, plus 139 or better. I'm going to be in on the Athletics and a total of 10.3, 10 or less in on the over, 10.5 or higher, the under for Kumar Rocker. If he does go in this game, you have to be very, very mindful of the home and road split. So if you don't get Rocker, probably not going to be any sort of a downgrade here for the Texas Rangers, because you'll look at Rocker throughout his career, and at home he gives up less than 1 home run per 9 innings. I'm not saying it's a low ERA, but it's a 4.04. That compares to a 5.96 ERA when he's away from home, with more around about 1.65 home runs per 9 innings. And for Gage Jump, he's been pretty solid when he has been away from home. And if you do look at the fielding independent numbers, it does show that he should be doing for a little bit of positivity, but I know it has been a rough season for him. 4.46 ERA compared to about a 3.51 fielding independent. Love the swing and miss stuff with about 10.4 strikeouts per 9 innings. He only gives up about 1 home run per 9, but the 4 walks per 9 innings has been costly, and much like so many of these pitchers with the Sacramento A's. At home, 6.16 ERA compared to a 2.60 ERA away from home, and this is just an absolutely terrible Athletics bullpen. And they went into the final game of their previous series with a 6.99 bullpen ERA since June 1st. Holy crud. Like, Hogan Harris has been able to give you a sub 350 ERA. Luis Medina is below a 4. That's about all the good that I could say about this bullpen. Like, every one of these other guys is just a completely flaming garbage can that is going to light the game on fire. It has been absolutely awful for all these guys, like Elvis Alvarado, when you've had Mark Leiter Jr. out there, Jose Suarez, man, no reliability whatsoever. And now they're dealing with a bunch of injuries with the lineup, as you've got Nick Kurtz, Shea Langoliers currently deal with injury. Now, Tyler Soderstrom, north of a 370 on base since June 1st, and he's up to 19 plus home runs. I like what I'm seeing there. And then we've got Zach Koloff off the injury list. He's been able to give you 12 home runs in a relatively small sample size. He's hitting a 280, so that's relatively solid for this team. But Lawrence Butler has been a disappointment. A lot of these mix and match guys like a Kobe Thomas towards the bottom of the fold, they're not giving you a whole heck of a lot. And the Rangers are a bottom 10 team themselves in terms of run creation. Jock Peterson has been your main guy in terms of providing the boom with 22 home runs. Jake Berger has also given you 19 to 20 home runs, but not a lot of on base. But then you do have guys that are moving the line. Wyatt Langford has been hitting above a 260. You've been able to have these guys like an Ezekiel Duran hitting for about a 270 to 275. Nicky Lopez is hitting a 270. Brandon Nimmo finding way on, and he's been able to give you 13 home runs. Corey Seager looks to be his old self as well. He's been better since coming off the injury list for the Rangers. Bullpen has been a little bit shaky, bottom 10 in terms of ERA since June 1st with Cole Winn and Robbie Alstrom. Not giving you too much, but Tyler Alexander, Jacob Latze have been two guys that have been able to give you an ERA that's below a 335. Chase Silseth, who they picked up from the Angels, has been relatively solid. So circumstance where at a 10 or less, I'm going to be in on the over 10 half or higher. The under blown up to minus 137 with the Rangers, plus 139 or better. The Athletics, 975, 976 on the card. It is the Red Sox. They are going to be on the road against the Pirates as Bubba Chandler goes for the Buccos, and you've got Jake Bennett who's going for the Red Sox. The Red Sox are a massive favorite here, minus 135 to minus 149, between plus 120 to plus 125. Then around Pittsburgh, 7.5 to 8.5 is the total. On the 8.5, unders minus 120, the overs even. On the 7.5, overs minus 120, and the unders even, and mostly seeing 8s. The unders minus 115, overs minus 105, and I did set a total here of a 7.8. Personally, if I could get the 7.5 over, I would love the 7.5 over, and I'm starting to see a few more 7.5s out there, so I'll take the 7.5 to the over personally, because with the Pirates, they are averaging 5.4 runs per game at home, and even though Bubba Chandler's been better, for Bubba Chandler right now, he's applying an ERA that's right around about a 4.26, but it's given up 300 runs or fewer in 9 out of his last 11 starts. He still does have the 4.8 walks per 9 innings, and Jake Bennett has been great in terms of keeping things out in front of him, not hurting himself, 0.6 home runs, 1.9 walks per 9 innings, but 6.5 strikeouts per 9 innings. That's a little bit shaky there. Now for the Red Sox, they have been number one in the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA. Teron Guerrero had a little bit of an upchuck a few days ago, but still, Giovanni Moore and Garrett Woodlock are giving you a sub 325 ERA. Eric Miller is a guy that I like. Aroldis Chapman has been so great at the closer's role, and for the Red Sox, they average about 4.6 runs per game away from home. That's in the upper half of all baseball. You've been able to have good production out of Volsky Torres, 23 plus bombs, about a 390 on base. Nick Sogard is now giving you about a 370 on base. Would like to see him get more at bats. And then Wilder Abreu, Ceddanne Rafaela. They've been in the top 5 in the American League in terms of home runs in the second half of the season. Abreu is above 20 home runs. Ceddanne Rafaela now hitting about a 290. Masataka Yoshida has been able to give you 345 on base. And Caleb Durbin finally doing something for the team. Flip side, you've got a Pirates bunch that has Brandon Lowe getting loud. He's been able to give you over 23 home runs. Not necessarily for the world's greatest amount of average, but that's why you've got guys like Brian Reynolds, Spencer Horowitz, Esmeralda Valdez give you between about a 365 to a 375 on base. Valdez has give you a home run every about 13 or so at bats. Then Jake Magnum is sitting at 300. He's been swiping a lot of bags for the team as well. So have a little bit of question mark at the catcher spot. And for the Pirates, it has been a little bit of a shaky bullpen. This team is in the bottom half in terms of ERA, but I think that picking up Luke Weaver is big. He's been able to give you a sub 250 ERA. Kirby Yates, he's better than what they've had, as Gregory Soto has been toilet bowling a little bit. Lake Bucar, he's been a relatively okay long guy. Don't really have a lot of faith in Camilo Duvall, but I did think that the Pirates can get to Bennett and be able to get a home win. I set this at a plus 116, so in on the Pirates on the money line, and like the over, so I might tell 7.8, wrap things up with 977, 978. The Guardians are going to be playing us, the Padres. Michael King hopes to be the king for the Pods, and Gavin Williams, he is going to be going for Cleveland. Cleveland is a favorite here between minus 125 to minus 135, plus 110 to plus 120. Then over on San Diego, and This total is between 7 to 7.5. On the 7, over is minus 120. The under is even on the 7.5. Under is minus 120. Over is even money. And I'm going to be in on the over. I did set my total at 7.6. Recognize that you've got a Guardians team that's in the bottom 5 of the big leagues. In terms of run creation, I just still continue to think that Michael King is going to be the king of regression here pretty soon because he's not getting the swing and misses that he has in the past. 3.37 ERA, but a 4.16 fielding dependent, 7.9 strikeouts per 9 innings. That's the lowest that he's had in any season that he's pitched more than 2 innings in, so that's been a little bit of an issue. 3.6 walks per 9 innings as well, and Gavin Williams is a far better pitcher when he's at home rather than away from home. 3.55 ERA, but closer to a 3.41 fielding independent, 11.5 strikeouts per 9 innings. Now, he has been burnt by the deep ball, giving up about 1.4 home runs per 9 innings, but again, when he's at home, he's been able to do a much better job in terms of dialing in. At home, he's got a 2.85 ERA, and he's given up about 1.1 home runs per 9 innings. Away from home, closer to 1.5 bombs per 9 with a 4.25 ERA. It's a Cleveland Guardians team that isn't quite on par with the San Diego Padres bullpen, but they still have been in the upper half of the big leagues in terms of ERA, as you've had Colin Holderman live up to his name. He's been able to give you a sub 350 ERA. Cade Smith has been able to do a really good job giving you good saves along with Hunter Gaddis. These are guys below a 375 ERA. Craig Yoho's had his issues, but I think that he's going to straighten out. And then Franco Allman along with Tim Aaron, they've been relatively reliable as well. The big thing for the Guardians is finding some offense. Chase Lauder, Stephen Kwan, these are 2 guys above a 355 on base, along with Genoa, who has been really good at the third base spot. Travis Bazzana, not giving you a ton of power, but even though the batting average is just a 239, 336 on base. Main boom guy has been Joe Adell. He's been able to supply 16 home runs thus far this season, but less than a 290 on base, so do have to have your trepidations there. And for the San Diego Padres, post All-Star break, they're averaging darn near 5 runs per game, and they have been averaging more than a half a run per game more when they've been away from home rather than at home. For the Pods, you've had Fernando Tatis Jr. hit more home runs post All-Star break than he did prior to the All-Star break. I think he's up to 12 thus far this season, and that on-base percentage hovering right around about 350 for Manny Machado. The overall season batting average is just a 213, but he's now been able to hit over 23 home runs. And again, he, much like so many of these guys, have been so much better since the All-Star break, especially Jackson Merrill. Jackson Merrill, ever since the All-Star break, he's been able to supply 9 home runs, hitting well above 300 for Machado, 245 average since the All-Star break. Jake Cronenworth is finally starting to move the line. Ty France, since the All-Star break, has been able to give you a 400 on base as well. So I do think they're going to get some scoring in for the Padres, even though you've had a little bit of injury with Jason Adam being on the injury list. You still do have Adrian Morejon, Yuki Matsui, Wandy Peralta giving you a sub 350 ERA along with Mason Miller, but I do think that the Guardians get to King here. So like the over, so my total is 7.6, and I'm in on the Guardians money line set it at a minus 139, and that'll wrap things up for the Friday edition of the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. A big thanks to our guy Colby Marchio over at Better Day. He joined me in the last segment. If you do like hearing from this fine podcast, Baseball Betting Show, you're able to subscribe wherever your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, and TuneIn. If you have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you have one of 2 ways we fire those in. First one is my Twitter /X timeline at gunit_81. Keep in mind, Larzium, the name does not matter, so as per usual, please send these into the timeline. The other way is find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it's very much appreciated, and then from there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like here on this podcast. Write that 5-star review, and I'm with you guys every single day, giving you guys picks and analysis on every game, every day, so I'll be back with you once again tomorrow. Thank you.